Hi, Sai and Sai here from MusicRadar. Today we're joined by Waldorf's latest desktop mini synth. This is Protein.
Protein.
Yeah.
It's a nice, affordable budget thing from Waldorf.
Yeah.
So Waldorf, as a lot of people I assume probably know, Waldorf are a brand who are like inherently linked with wavetable synths. So
Yes.
they made these kind of classic, born out of the kind of ashes of PPG.
Yeah.
Kind of invented the sort of hardware wavetable synths. Had the classics like the microwave and kind of that era of kind of 90s, early 90s wavetable synths, used massively by loads of like really influential electronic dance musicians, pop musicians and things like that.
Yeah.
Great classic synths. And ever since, Waldorf has always been kind of, it's done, as a company, has done a variety of different things. You know, they've done some analog stuff, they've done some effects and things like that. But it always comes down to wavetables, really.
Yeah.
That's kind of at the heart of what Waldorf does.
They've lent into it quite heavily lately, and bigger synths in the Quantum.
Yeah, so the more recent things we've seen from Waldorf have been these kind of big, really impressive synths. So there, as you say, the Quantum, which is like a massive, all singing, all dancing behemoth of a synth.
Yeah.
I really like it. You're not that so sold on Quantum, but
I think wavetable synthesis generally, I find it really hard to get excited by it.
And we'll come back to that in a minute.
Good.
Anyway,
Good,
Quantum, massive, really high-end synth.
Yeah.
Then you've got Iridium, which is the slightly smaller version of the same lineage. And now you've got this, which is kind of right down the bottom end of the
funnel.
that same funnel,
Yeah.
It's about £299, so around the £300, €300, $300-ish mark.
Yeah.
Give or take in different currencies. So a really nice affordable
This
thing.
is the budget end, isn't it?
But still very much in that kind of lineage of things. And also when I say about kind of that lineage, it's linked right back to this classic Waldorf synths. So what Protein has at its heart is these wavetable oscillators, which are effectively the same wavetable oscillators found in the original Microwave 1.
Right.
So right down to the exact same wavetables.
Yeah.
And then there's a few other kind of digital things built around that, which I will explain in a minute.
Okay.
But the result is a kind of I'm going to say this early on, probably my favourite little budget synth I've seen in a while.
Ooh.
Like in this price point.
Okay.
So I've been playing around with it. There's a lot I really like about it. So let's dive into it.
And one thing, and we're going to go into this later, I want to know about flavour. So we're going to go into that, yeah?
We'll talk about flavour in a bit.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So Protein is a multi-timbral synth. So it's got these 4 layers here, A, B, C, and D. And what these all have are, each of these layers is basically a 2 oscillator synth in its own.
Okay,
right.
Cool.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to initialize a patch here. So I'm going to hit Shift and initialize, boop, and press that. So I've got an initialized patch here. You can hear
there we go.
Nothing going on, simple initialized patch.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to start building up a bit of a patch and talk through what is going on as I do it to let you know basically what's going on with Protein.
Okay.
So I'm on layer A here. As I said, but each layer has 2 oscillators, which we access in this wavetable section here. Now these wavetables are the same wavetables found in the Microwave 1 synth, the kind of Waldorf classic, so right back to that 90s heritage. And if I scroll through the table thing here, you can see we have a total of 64. Wavetables for each oscillator. So wavetable synths, for anyone who's not really used them before, a wavetable synth works by, wavetables effectively put lots of single cycle oscillator waves one after another, so that you can kind of scan through them. Here we do that with this wave control here. You can see we kind of move through those, which basically gives us lots of different variations on the wave, that basic waveform that we can then modulate or kind of physically move through. You might notice when I go all the way to the end here, so there's 63 cycles in each of these wavetables, and these last 3 here just give us classic synth shapes. So we've got a triangle wave, square wave, and a saw wave. So you can use those for kind of classic, more virtual analog style if you want to thicken things up with like basic synth waves like that. So like I said, we've got the 2 oscillators here. I can change between these here. Let's bring in, let's add a more interesting tone here. And what I need to do, if I want to balance these, I hit the shift and then alter the level here. And that's how I kind of balance between those 2 oscillators.
Okay, yeah.
This envelope amount, so this means that we can use the envelope section to modulate through those wavetables. And when designing sounds for wavetable synths, modulation is like absolutely key to getting the most out of it. So obviously with these wavetables, you can select different wave shapes with this. But if you're not modulating anything, effectively all you're doing is using static waveforms, just like it's, you know, you're using a sample-based synth or something like that. Wavetable synths come to life when you you modulate and kind of move through. And the easiest way to do that here is using this envelope. Now, the envelopes are a little bit fiddly on Protein, and this is one thing. If I'm going to criticise it, then we'll come back to this. But the fact that some of the interface things take a little bit getting your head around, and it's the choices of what you have hands-on control for is maybe a little bit fiddly. And I'll show you that in action by using these envelopes. So the envelope section here, we've actually got 3 envelopes for the wavetable waves, filter, and amp. These are all basically ADSR envelopes. So you've got attack, decay, sustain, release sections here, but we've only got 1 control for each. So to control these, we've basically got to use this to cycle through, and then we kind of adjust each one individually, which, you know, isn't too much of a pain, but it's also, it's not quite as smooth to play with as if you had proper controls like as you do obviously on kind of bigger synths, bigger Waldorf synths as well.
But as far as it goes, it's not, you're not having to like shift, do something, actually just the 2 knobs and the, so I think I mentioned another product, Etch-a-Sketch style. That's actually, well, it's not too bad, is it? It's
not too bad, yeah. We've definitely seen worse when it comes to like interface things. So anyway, so by doing that, we can kind of I can shape a wave, an envelope for the wave, and then we can use this envelope amount, and you will start to hear that we're getting some movement right out of those wavetables. Let's do the envelope in the other direction on this second one. And you can hear, as I hold down where those, you start to get that movement, which is what we like out of wavetable synths. It's like you can just hold that single note and get those nice textural shifts from a single oscillator. So this is basically, as we're saying, that is all coming at the moment from just those 2 oscillators. There's nothing else going on. Those 2 oscillators with an envelope, which shows you just the nice thing about wavetable synths is you can get a lot of that sound shaping just from those oscillators. But that's not further. We can go further. So we have a filter section here. So, and again, these are all per layer. So we've got wavetables, filters, and then the kind of modulation stuff, which is all for each of these synth layers. This filter section, we've got in this, we've got the cutoff here. We could alter the cutoff, but as soon as we select this little screen will come and display our filter section here. Now there's a few modes in here. There's a low pass filter, a high pass filter, both of which are resonant. But we've also got drive, which is basically lets us add a bit of kind of grit and heft. And here, like the cutoff becomes a drive amount. So we get a bit of overdrive. And that drive works really nicely with the wavetables because those kind of interesting harmonics in the wavetables often adding a bit of extra drive brings some more interest out of them. What is a little bit of a shame here is that because filter drive is not an uncommon feature on a synth, but quite a lot of time, generally, particularly on analog synths, you'll find you'll get a filter drive which is built within the filter circuit. So effectively, you know, you're driving something, but you still have access to the filter. Here, it's a replacing mode. So you've got either low pass, high pass, or drive, or we can bypass that section completely. Depending on how we want to shape the sound. There's a little bit of shame that you can't drive the filter and use the filter at the same time, but which we'll come to in a bit, there are other options for distortion when we come to effects. So another thing that we've got in this filter section, which isn't that obvious when you first see it, is that you've got this dirt section here. And dirt sounds like it would be a distortion, like another way of adding kind of those kind of harmonics. Actually, what this is more of a noise generator. So if I hold shift and go into dirt, I can adjust the volume here, so you can hear.
Yeah.
That's adding a bit of noise there. In fact, let's go just raise the cutoff so that it's not being rolled down. You can hear noise. But if I hold shift there, you've also got different kinds of noise there. So you've got static, then we've got crackle.
Okay. Yeah.
So I kind of get what the dirt is, because it's kind of adding that sort of gritty textural noise.
Yeah.
But it's more of a noise generator than it is a distortion thing.
Yeah.
But it's a nice little way to add some extra texture to patches.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of core shaping of each layer. We've got modulation tools here. I've touched on these envelopes. The envelopes for the filter and the amp work in the same way as the wave one that we've already seen.
Yeah.
We've got an ADSR envelope here, and then we can select through our different stages and adjust those with the appropriate control. Like that. And then we've got another modulation section here. And this modulation section, we've got access to 2 LFOs. But we've also got a little mod matrix in there where we can route some various different things. So obviously the speed control here, this gives us our control over our LFO speed and shape. If I hold shift, which gives us these classic LFO shapes plus random and a sample and hold LFO for some modulation.
Your usual sort of suspects.
Your usual kind of LFO things. But then if we go into source here, you can see, as well as the envelopes, so we've got our 3 envelopes there that we can have as sources, our 2 LFOs, and different
aftertouch.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we've got mob wheel.
Yep.
Which we can. You see LFOs here. We can link the LFO to the mob wheel to have that increasing.
Yeah.
Aftertouch. So we've got aftertouch, but we've also got you see note. Channel, so we've got full MPE control that we can route as well, which is nice. So if you're using an MPE controller, you've got those those kind of the sort of press and per note pitch bend that we can route to different things within here. So you can get nicely expressive with it. I can't do that with this because we're just using a simple thing. And again, poly aftertouch, MPE, pedal and expression, breath control, and then you've got various other CCs and things, and velocity as you'd expect. So actually that mod matrix is quite flexible, and particularly when you start thinking about routing those to say different wavetable positions and kind of filter amounts and things across these different layers, you start to be able to build up some quite interesting patches.
Okay.
So let's talk about those layers.
Because
I've touched on the fact there's 4 layers. You can do more than just, obviously, if we playing with these, so there's our layer that we've just been playing with, and then if I go into layer B, obviously I've got a whole other synth, 2 oscillator synth I can play with. I can do the same with layer C here. Let's just put some different sounds in so that they sound different. Put a bit of resonance on that one, and then we can have this being a bit gnarlier, and let's maybe put this in a high pass mode. Actually, I'll just change the envelope to be a bit quick on here. And the reason I'm just putting some slightly different sounds so you can hear the differences on these is I'm going to show you what we can do with these layers. So we've got 4 different layers there. We can just flip between them and have different synth sounds. But we've also got this multi-mode here, and this allows us to use these layers in a few different ways. Which we can do here. So layered mode will obviously kind of just stack those different synth sounds. Essentially you're just kind of, you're using all of these together for one synth sound. I actually personally, I don't think that's the most valuable way to use this, because as we've seen from delving into those wavetables, you get a lot of texture out of wavetables anyway, like particularly once you start doing modulation. I kind of feel with wavetable synths, much more than like two oscillators is kind of overkill. So
this is sort of diving into the root of where I have a problem.
Obviously you can have a layered patch there with like 8 different oscillators and different filter rooms. I don't necessarily think there's that many situations where that's that necessary, because you can get a lot of interest out of just what's going on within one thing.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So there's another mode.
But there are other modes which become much more interesting.
Okay.
So we can browse through here. Round robin, which is a really nice mode. So what this allows us to do, if I just activate these, I will activate these sounds I put on these ones. And round robin now lets us trigger a different sound with each press, which obviously comes in really nicely if we engage like an arpeggiator and just do. You can just hear how that's cycling through our well, 3 here because I haven't set anything up on D, 3 different synth sounds, which immediately can make some really cool and interesting kind of art patterns and sequences and things like that. The other modes we've got in this multi-mode, we've got random robin, which is basically the same as round robin, except it's randomizing which one it's going rather than just cycling through them. Again, it's a nice way to get really weird and interesting sounds. And then MIDI split, which is really handy because what that allows us to do is, which I'm not going to do because I've just got a simple controller here.
If you had a
say
large keyboard.
If we had a large keyboard, or we're running this on USB-C and we can plug into our computer with USB-C, and that just lets us use different MIDI channels to play the 4 different layers. So now you've got essentially 4 different synth sounds that, say you're in a studio or a live performance setting, you can trigger from different controllers or kind of set up for one bigger controller or whatever to play multiple different sounds. And so you see this kind of quickly becomes quite interesting, quite powerful. I'm going to talk to you quickly about how the effects here relate to this. So if I press one of these, you see I can use these to activate or deactivate each layer, as well as set the volume for each layer, set the polyphony, so we can have them each one, say, in mono, legato or poly modes. Polyphony is worth saying, I don't think I've mentioned, this is 8 voice polyphonic. So that's the kind of most notes that you can play at any one time, even if you're using kind of the different different layers together. But we can also do effects routing here. So if we're, say, playing with layers or playing with MIDI splits or in round robin or anything like that, we can go up to this effects here and we can route each layer individually to where it goes. So we've got 2 effects for, and these effects sit globally, so they're not per layer. So we've got 2 effects modules which are functioning across all 4 layers, but we can route whether
it's on or off.
Whether we're going to effects 1, effects 2, or bypassing the effects altogether, and that's really handy. Again, say if you were to make a layered sound with 2 layers where you're saying have a pad underneath that's really washy with loads of reverb, but a slightly kind of cleaner layer that's going to cut through on top, for example. Or again, you can do cool, weird round robin arp lines where one layer is going to a delay and one isn't, or something, or one is going to a really big reverb.
But not both at the same time. You can't route. Can you route effects 1 and 2?
If it routes into effects 1, it then goes into effects 2. So if you're routing into effects 2, you're bypassing effects 1. Or if you're routing to the output, you're then bypassing both. If that makes sense.
Doesn't do parallel, just does series.
So you can kind of you'd have to, if you want 2 different effects on layers, you kind of have to have one with the 2 effects. If that makes sense.
Gotcha.
So the effects here are controlled using 2 front panel controls. So there's a few shift presses and things to navigate them here. If I hold shift, I can go to effects 1 here. So we've got effects 1, effects 2. And then I can change the type down here. So you can see the different effect type. We've got some modulation effects here. Kind of tremolo. We've got drive, like I said, another way to add a bit of distortion. We've got compressor, EQ, delay, and reverb. And these all have parameters that you can control by, if we shift press here, you can see this top one is a dry wet for all of them. And then this one, this second parameter here, this top, if I shift press, controls the amount, and this one down here gives us different parameters that we can change. So there is a bit of shift pressing and menu diving to kind of set up those effects, but it's not the most complicated thing in the world. So other sections we've got this pitch section here, which has got some kind of which has got scale and chord modes. You can see we've got a nice glide. Obviously, you can change the pitch settings for the overall synth. You want to get to flavour.
It's a nice one to end on because it is right down there on the bottom right.
Yeah.
What's that about?
So flavour is, you can essentially think of it as kind of like, some synths have a kind of virtual analog or kind of analog emulating control where you'll get.
Okay.
It's what it's doing.
Is it adding some heft?
Not so much.
Okay.
What it's doing. So one thing about wavetable synths sometimes is that, because obviously this is all digital, it's all digitally controlled, they can sound a little bit clinical at times, which I think is one of the things you were
One of my
touching a thing.
Yeah, least likable things.
And so what this flavour control does, which you probably won't really hear that much because obviously we've got wavetable modulation things going on anyway, and it's quite subtle.
Right.
But what it does is it introduces a variety of different small variations in things like pitch and things like that, which Waldorf isn't explicit on exactly what it's doing, but what it's doing is effectively, kind of adding small variations that add a bit of extra, I guess, depth and character to a sound. So it's not a bit like when we see the sort of the vintage knob on some exactly
things,
like
and
that,
it's
like
kind
a
of just
vintage
knocking things a bit out of
analog-esque.
just knocking them out off center a bit, having a bit of wobble to it.
I'll be honest, from playing with it, I can't say how obvious I find it in many of the patches, but that might just be from not spending enough time listening to the same sounds like over and over again. I will trust that it is doing something, and it's the sort of thing I would probably always turn up anyway, just to. Yeah, sure. Even if it could just be a placebo. It literally could just be.
Well, let's talk. So going back to originally what we were saying, I find wavetables, a lot of digital synthesis generally, not as exciting.
Yeah.
Purely because often I find they're a bit overtly complicated, and I'm very simple, and after a lot of tinkering, everything ends up sounding the same. And I get the idea of this sort of thing is to kind of like, well, let's try and make it a bit different.
Yeah.
But you love this.
I really like this, but then this kind of also comes down to our slight, again,
I suppose differences in what we're into.
You have a bit of a kind of thinking of 90s digital synths, and you're just like, that's the least cool thing in the world. And I have a bit.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that's the least cool thing in the world. I mean, I was there as well, and I loved it then. But I just found everything very samey.
I do get that, and there is an argument that you could say about Protein that it is, again, it's kind of just using the microwave 1 oscillators.
Yeah.
And it is arguably just another wavetable synth, and it is also arguably wavetable synthesis is obviously very common in the plugin realm these days.
It is everywhere.
It's in everywhere. Things like Serum, which is obviously kind of the most powerful wavetable synths going. And there is an argument to be made that, like, if you've got Serum, what's this doing that Serum isn't? And the argument is not that much really, but
that's
I like
real thing with real knobs on it.
I like kind of hands-on synths like these. So I was playing around with this earlier we've got Poly and Mess over here, which we'll do some demos with. And I think this really comes to life when put through like an effects pedal like that. And again, you're not really doing anything that you can't do with Serum and some cool plugins in your DAW. But I just really like that kind of hands-on approach. And bearing in mind, this is less than 300 quid. You can get some cool effects pedals for less than that as well. You can get cool effects pedals for not that expensive. I think it's a nice way to get real physical hands-on synths that you can make some really cool soundscapey textures with.
I know what you mean. Lots to be said for pairing up with effects, isn't it?
So for my money, if you're looking for a kind of a compact and pretty flexible synth for around that kind of £200-300 mark, I have a lot of good things to say about this. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Nice one. Well, thanks, Si. I'm going to love to hear these demos you're going to do with Mess. So we'll get you to do those in a bit. But it's time to wrap up. Now, we said it was $299, wasn't it? £299 pounds. I think €329, and I don't know dollars. Dollars fluctuating every day, isn't it? Pretty much.
We'd like to know what you think about this. Hit the comments section. Tell us how you think Protein would fit into your workflow, setup, whatever. Would you get one? All that stuff. Let us know. Don't forget to do the liking, subscribing, and notification button pressing. And we'll see you soon for some more demos. Until then, bye-bye.
Thanks.